1 p.m. case, Thomas Coyle, Don Coyle, and Jessica Moss, Tom and Dan LLC, trading as Half Mile Track, 4108 Frederick Avenue. Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Application transfer ownership for Class BD7 license, presently in the name of a secured creditor to the applicant at the same location. Everybody testifying, please step forward and raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good afternoon, Mr. Priebus.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Peter Priebus on behalf of the applicants. To my right is Thomas Coyle and his wife, young child Coyle. The Baltimore City resident licensee, Jessica Moss, was lucky enough to obtain a trip for next week, and her boss told her if she comes to this hearing today, she will be fired because she can't take off next week. She is only the city resident licensee, and she understands her obligations as she's worked in liquor license establishments for many years. She lives over on Bond Street, and School 2 property, not School 6. And respectfully request that these license.
All right. The board
Yes.
live with that. We'll be hearing from the Coyles, who would be the primary operators anyway.
Yes.
All right. Councilwoman, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. Would you be all right, Mr. Priebus, with Ms. Holton, with Councilwoman Holton testifying first?
Sure.
All right. I know she's in the middle of in between
In
hearings.
between hearings.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Councilwoman.
Hi, I'm here on behalf of the community. The association president couldn't be here. She had an emergency doctor's appointment, but they did send a letter in advance voicing their concern about this establishment and the desire that they would like this board to take going forward. The Half Mile Track was an establishment that they took several years to ultimately get closed because of disturbances to the community, whether they were police complaints, fire department, lewd, noise, just the whole cadre of things that make community living, city living difficult. And so when they heard that this was coming up to be opened again as a nightclub, needless to say, they were panic-stricken. The Frederick Avenue corridor in Irvington, over the years since I've represented the area, has been plagued with drug trafficking, prostitution, just, you know, there was a Chinese store that finally left or whatever. They didn't even open up till 6 p.m. and they were open till 3 and 4 in the morning for purposes other than just selling Chinese food. And so it has been the community's desire not to see this establishment open up, this location open up again as a nightclub. At one time, they entertained conversations working with Baltimore Development Corporation to put a laundromat in or a bank or something that would be have a more positive impact on the overall community. They just did not want another nighttime liquor establishment in the community with residents living in close proximity. And the establishment opened till 2, so that meant 2, 3 in the morning. You've got people lingering on the streets, loitering, whatever they do after hours. And so they contacted me and said, Councilwoman, please support us. We do not want this establishment to reopen as a nightclub. It took us so long to get it closed as a nightclub that we would be willing to entertain any other kind of establishment other than one that is a nightclub, tavern, or something of that nature selling liquor. So I gave the executive secretary a letter. There are a couple more for you.
We're going to go ahead, yep, and introduce this.
Please introduce
I haven't
that.
seen the letter.
Oh, all right, here you are.
Sorry about that.
I just object to the community association's letter because I checked the liquor board file yesterday. There was no such letter in there. I'm advised that it was put in there this morning. My clients met with the community 3 weeks ago, haven't heard anything, and now here we are and find out that they're opposed.
All right, let's deal with this. I've marked Councilwoman Holton's letter as protestants 1. She's here to be cross-examined. I'll give you a chance to read that letter and to tell me if you have an objection to that exhibit, and then we'll move on to the second.
No objection.
Okay, no objection. Protestants 1, the Councilwoman's letter is received into evidence. All right, with respect to the admissibility of the Irvington Community Association letter, your basis, and again, it does say that it was, the fax header says it was faxed at 8:12 on February 28th, which would be this morning. And it indicates that there's an opposition to the transfer. And your basis is that
Liquor board rules says that opposition should be placed within 10 days of the notice.
All right, I mean, I don't know.
They're not here,
Right.
and nobody's here.
Yeah. The board is going to overrule your objection. We are going to admit the community association letter as protestants too, and we'll hear from you as to the weight that it should carry.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Now, Councilwoman, is there anything else you'd like to say?
You know, the community contacted me. Initially, this hearing was scheduled for some time prior, and I was planning to be here, and then it got postponed, and so I didn't have I scrapped the letter from before because it was dated, and I didn't know when it would come around again. And so when they called and they wanted to assure that I would be there, I said, I did not know if I would be there because of the 2 hearings I'm in between right now. This morning when the president called and said she had to go to the doctors, it was not pre-scheduled. So I said, well, I would go in between my hearings to come and stand in on behalf of the community. As their representative, I have a responsibility to voice their concerns before such bodies as this. They had sent emails, and so I did expect to see members of the community here. I will say, as in most communities in my district, there's usually a handful that are faithful in being present to represent the issues and concerns of a community, whether it's a walkthrough through the alleys and the neighborhoods dealing with issues, or just coming to the regular community association meeting. I can't explain people's lack of showing up, but I know that I have a responsibility when they reach out to me, and as my letter states, this is nothing personal against Tom and Young Coyle. I love them dearly. I've worked with them over the years, but I do know with 2 liquor stores, one a couple doors down from the half-mile track, one across the street from the other, that there is a presence of liquor already in the community. There is a presence of drug activity that takes place in the community. There is a presence of prostitution that goes on in the community, attested by the vials, the condoms, the things that when we do walks in the community, they're in the alley, they're on the street. And there have been efforts to try and revitalize that commercial corridor for daytime business activity. When Neighborhood Housing Services was in that community, that was an initiative that began, but as their funding reduced and their mission and structure transformed, they left that community. And so what you find now are storefront churches. We do have My Brother's Keeper on the corner that helps to deal with the situation of people in need, be it food, shelter, or what have you, social services. And so the community is working to transform and make their commercial corridor more viable, not just for the residents. Frederick Avenue is part of a historic roadway that leads to downtown from out west. And they just want their community to have a fighting chance to revitalize the housing stock, which has been a challenge on Collins Avenue, which is right around the corner from where this establishment is. And so they're just asking for a fighting chance. It's been closed for a couple years almost, and they've actually enjoyed peace and quiet by that nighttime establishment not being open there, and a better sense of livability in their neighborhood. And so that is why they have come and said, please, please do not let this be another nightclub or tavern in our neighborhood.
All right, thank you very much. Questions for the Councilwoman?
Yeah,
Commissioner?
I have a few questions.
Okay.
Councilwoman, thank you so much for coming down here on behalf of your community. I think that speaks volumes to your commitment to the district, and we appreciate that. Are you aware that this license has been in existence at this location
For a very long time.
for 10 years?
Long before I was the representative there.
Mhm.
And it was a problem having the half-mile track then.
Okay.
And they worked with the police department, the fire department, zoning to see what could be done for the establishment not to go on.
Okay.
And
You also referenced that the community is adamant about not wanting to have
They
a
are.
nightclub. Does the community, and do you realize that there isn't any live entertainment allowed at this location?
I can't say. I don't know one way or the other. But a nightclub, a DJ, I mean, it was a club.
Okay.
And you could ride on Frederick Avenue.
And see
any
the
Thursday,
former-
Friday, Saturday night, and it was people spilling out into the street, boom, boom, boom. So I don't know what a DJ classifies if that's live entertainment or not. You know,
Right,
I've never
yes.
seen it live. Well,
From the
it
former operator, they operated with, not within the scope. So you're
Okay.
saying they operated as a nightclub.
Okay.
So representing the community, I know you spoke to the revitalization efforts.
Yes.
Have you had conversations with members of the community regarding the change in the establishment, perhaps a restaurant?
They would love anything that would invite families and people of the neighborhood.
So it's not
to come
against
and-
liquor, it's against a certain type of environment that may
It is an
promote liquor
environment
and
that-
violence at the same time.
Liquor and late night, so anything that's gonna be open beyond 9 or 10 o'clock at night, yes, they have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just don't want that type of activity. You know, the activity that they've known from that establishment since the bank closed
Mm-hmm.
has been nighttime entertainment with liquor and the spillover and everything else that is associated with that. So when they heard that the liquor license was looking to reactivate itself at that location, they were extremely disturbed. And they said, we don't want it.
A
We
night-
don't want it. And so if it were a restaurant that had wine and beer for dinner,
They may be amenable to
they may
that?
be amenable to that. But as a music
Tavern.
establishment, tavern, no, they absolutely unequivocally do not want anything of that nature in their neighborhood.
Thank you, nothing further.
Thank you. Witness with you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Holden, you've known the Coils for quite some time.
I have.
And they've been business people in the neighborhood for how many?
They have well, long before I got there. The liquor store on the corner has been theirs, and, you know, a liquor store is what a liquor store is, but their corner's always been clean. And so, as a liquor store, it closes down a certain hour of the night, and it's not conducive to large crowds of people in and out. They've been excellent supporters of the Irvington community, the initiatives, the back-to-school rallies and things that the community has to support the neighborhood kids, yeah,
Great. You realize that they sold the liquor store a couple of years ago?
I do.
Okay. Now, with regard to the half-mile tract property, you realize that they are the owners of the real estate there?
Yes,
Okay. And that they had sold the business and they were leasing to an entity that was controlled by a Mr. Rodney Brown. Now, you might not know it was Rodney Brown.
I don't know all those particulars.
But-
I just remember when it closed.
Okay.
And the sigh of relief that the community gave that at last.
Okay.
And they also knew that Mr. and Mrs. Coyle owned the property, but that it was being leased out to tenants.
Okay. Now, you may not know this, but the Coils have a certain investment in this. If this application is denied in total, then this license dies and the property is vacant. Now, we tried to reach out to the community for some middle ground. Would you or the community be amenable to some operation that closed early, that catered to the people living in the senior housing nearby, that would not have absolutely under any circumstances any type of music or any type of crowds outside?
What I can say is this. I can't speak definitively for what the community wants, but I would certainly be amenable to some sort of delay or postponement to have the community and the Coils sit down and see if they can't work on some mutually agreeable facility or a business venture to take place in the building that everyone could peaceably live with. You know, the reality is, I love the Coils, but they don't live in the neighborhood. So in their absence, whatever's going on there, they're not privy to. But when the police get calls, when, you know, neighbors feel like they can't walk down the street because they're concerned about who's going to be coming out of this establishment, then it becomes my responsibility.
Absolutely.
Mr. Priebus.
Councilwoman Horton, would you take part in that sit-down?
Absolutely.
discussion?
And I would bring BDC to the table as well,
Is that
and
something?
zoning.
Absolutely.
Okay, so your client is interested in sitting down and having a meeting with
Absolutely.
the Irvington Community Association and the councilwoman?
We are prepared to enter into any type of agreement. I can't say without knowing all the options.
Right.
Something
More amenable than
more
what's?
amenable than you would be used to coming out of my mouth.
Wow. So you want to postpone
Oh,
this?
no, I don't know if I should,
That's
if
right.
I should run or really be excited.
Yeah, well, it sounds like there is
Should be exciting.
there's
Okay.
certainly an agreement to communicate, and we will allow that to occur, especially with Ms. Cunningham being sick.
Yeah.
If she were here, it might have been something we worked out in the hall
Yes.
prior to 1 o'clock, but
Fantastic.
because of that illness, we're not able to do that. So
Thank you.
let's go ahead and pass the case for a few weeks. You don't happen to know when Irvington's board meets or anything like that, do you?
They meet, well, that's the community meeting, the second Tuesday of every month. But in all honesty, I would say we would need a couple of meetings because, you know, a couple of meetings. I'd need time for BDC to come to the table with some viable options, for zoning to say this is allowed and that is allowed, particularly since this establishment was running outside of the scope of what it was entitled to run with. So I don't know myself all of exactly what can take place in that establishment, but I am definitely willing to make myself available to sit down and talk about what options there are that everyone could live with.
Fair enough.
No hurry.
All right, wonderful. And we're certainly not going to, prejudice you with the fact that the establishment might end up being closed down an extra month or more as a result of these discussions.
Not
So, all right, then that's, as long as there is an agreement to communicate. And
Absolutely.
we'll hear from council and the parties as far as setting it back in.
Great.
All right?
And I will also send to the board when those meetings are scheduled on my calendar so that you know we are moving forward.
Thank
I mean,
you.
I am an advocate of, as long as you stay engaged in the conversation, anything is possible. And I certainly am supportive of seeing our city be the kind of place, as the mayor says all the time, she's looking to attract 10,000 families to move to Baltimore. And this is an opportunity to put an establishment there that will do just that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank
All
you.
right, we're off the record.
Nice to see
Thank
y'all
you.
again.
Thank you.
Public request?
1 p.m. case, Jacquelin Middleton, Kurt Bowie Sr., and Bernard Booker, Grown Folks Bar LLC, trading as Grown Folks Bar, 3525-27, South Hanover Street, Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Public hearing to determine the status of license under provisions of Article 2D, 10-504D, concerning a licensee that has been inactive for more than 180 days. If I testify, please step forward and raise your right hand.
Do you swear, please raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Jacquelin. Her name is James E. Stansel. I represent Mr. Booker here.
James.
James
Stansel.
Stansel,
We need you to, I just need 1 minute. We need you speaking to the microphone. We have a lot of people at the bench. We only need one person to talk at one time and no talking back and forward so that we can collect this all onto our report, if that's possible. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Stansel. Go ahead and identify your licensees again. You said you had Mr. Bernard Booker.
Bernard Booker, and I represent Mr. Kurt Bowie. My parents brought me into the record because I was just contacted by these gentlemen yesterday and represent them.
Okay.
I've had the opportunity to talk with some of the folks here today, and I think that we would like to postpone to continue our conversation. I think it's going to be worked out.
All right, Mr. Stansel, thank you. Ms. Hughes, for the record, please.
Susan Hughes, Community Law Center. I'm here on behalf of Concerned Citizens for a Better Brooklyn. I'm not sure what this is about. I haven't spoken to you or anybody else regarding any postponement.
All right, then let's hear more about it from Mr. Stansel.
Well, again, I was just
Speaking to the
retained
mic,
yesterday.
please.
I haven't had a chance to
Here,
talk.
come on over here.
Again, I was just retained yesterday.
Okay.
I had a chance to talk with the attorneys here. I
Okay.
didn't know you were involved. I wanted to talk to you about, and this is one reason why I'm asking for postponement this matter.
Well, who do we have here as far as attorneys? Who are you representing?
I am David Mabry and Patrick Preller, my co-counsel. We represent the premises owner.
Okay. And Mr. Stansel, you represent the licensee. And then we have a third party, Ms. Hughes, who represents the community of Better Brooklyn Community Association, correct? All right. So do you guys want to take a minute to?
Do you have any position on the postponement request, Ms. Hughes?
Well, can I ask what your position is? I understand that you were just retained.
All right, yeah, I agree. Let me
I mean-
let me pull this back in.
I didn't-
Mr. Stansel, hang on one second. Is it your postponement request or is it yours?
It is ours.
Okay. Give me your name one more time for the record.
David
Mabry. How do you spell it?
Mabrey.
R-E-Y. All right, thank you, Mr. Mabry. And why?
How do you have standing?
Yeah, I'm getting there. Why do you want to postpone it? The landlord?
Yes.
Well, why does the landlord want to postpone it?
Well, because obviously being the license is listed at that address, anything that would happen with the license has a potential impact on the premises.
Does he have a security interest in the license?
We believe that he does. We have just been retained and need further time to investigate that. I wasn't aware of Ms. Hughes or had even time to explore what is going on with the community. So we'd like to address any of their concerns as well too with additional time.
Determine whether the license is even valid, much less discussing any kind
That is
of
why you're here.
agreement.
But the parties can
Okay, I
still
just wanted to make
speak, come to
sure.
agreements, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm, that's correct. You're correct.
So is that why the council wants this extra time to look into that part of it?
And-
I just want to know what I'm
Mr.
supposed to be
Stansel's
prepared
indicated
for.
he just got involved, so he
Yeah.
just wants to postpone it so he can get up to speed. Mr. Mabry has indicated that he also wants to postpone it and to get up to speed, but also to communicate with you and your clients regarding a possible settlement proposal, I imagine.
But, okay, that just assumes that there is a valid license, and I thought we were here to determine whether there was. So I just don't know
Right.
what to talk with them about or prepare for. That's all I'm asking. I just want clarity.
Sure. Yeah, we'll be happy to discuss that with you further, off the record. I mean, but whatever your clients are gonna drive your representation, and
Well-
so it's up to them.
Yeah, I mean, according to Ms. Schroeder's letter, that's all.
That's fine.
That's the only thing I'm
That's
going
fine.
off
We're
of.
just dealing with the postponement request today. All right?
And I just want to know what the next hearing will be about.
The next hearing will be the
validity of
same
hearing
thing.
Or
The next hearing will,
community input?
the next hearing will have the same heading, public hearing to determine status of inactive license.
Whether.
Due to the postponement, will not prejudice the licensee for the 30 days or whatever it is to get back in here, but we'll be dealing with the past. If the community wants to proceed with the case, it's a public hearing, so we're here to take all evidence.
All evidence.
But will, as to the inactive or active status of the
Right,
bar.
right.
So we are going to hear from the community. If the licensees and the landlord want to reach out to the community and see what can be done, we certainly encourage that.
No.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and postpone this, just so you understand that, okay? It's first time in, request from two separate council. So we're going to postpone it, and I can't give you any advice, or you any advice on what to do in the meantime, but
Well,
certainly talk to our staff, talk to Mr.
The
Page.
fact that fees haven't been paid in years, I mean, if fees are all of a sudden paid, that isn't going to make any impact on the past, as you said, right?
I don't know. I don't know if fees were paid this morning, that's the thing. I mean, I opened the file and I don't know where we are. I know what it says. It's one, all I have is the same thing you have. It's one sentence in front of it. We haven't looked at any of the evidence at this time. So the case is postponed, and we'll see you back here in a month.
All righty, well.
All right? Nice to see you, Mr. Mabry, Mr. Stansel, and Ms. Hughes. Thank you. We're off the record.
And
Nice to see you, Ms. Wills. Are we adjourned?
we are adjourned. Chairman?
Doesn't seem right. It's too early.